हरि बोल, हरि बोल, निताय गौर हरि बोल। गौर प्रेमानंदे। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिल प्रभुपाद की। इस्कॉन संस्थापकाचार्य बीबीडी संस्थापकाचार्य शिल प्रभुपाद की। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की। नामाचार्य शिल हरिदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की। ब्रजभूमि शिव वृंदावन धाम की। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की। पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की। गंगा मैया की। जमुना मैया की। भक्ति देवी की। तुलसी देवी की। कलयुग पावन श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की। श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga.
ईश्वर परम कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद विग्रह अनादिरादिर गोविंद सर्व कारण कारणम चिंतामणि प्रकर सद्म सुकल्प वृक्ष लक्षावृतेषु सुरभिरभिपालयन्तम् लक्ष्मी सहस्रशत संभ्रम सेव्यमानम् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि वेणुं क्वनन्तमरविन्ददलायताक्षं वरहावतांसमसिताम्बुधसुन्दराङ्गं कन्दर्पकोटिकमनीयविशेषशोभं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि आलोलचन्द्रकलसत्वनमाल्यवंशी रत्नाङ्गदं प्रणयकेलिकलाविलासं श्यामं त्रिभङ्गललितं नियतप्रकाशं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि अङ्गानि यस्य सकलेन्द्रियवृत्तिमन्ति पश्यन्ति पान्ति कलयन्ति चिरं जगन्ति आनन्दचिन्मय सद् उज्ज्वल विग्रहस्य गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि अद्वैतमच्युतमनादिमनन्तरूपम् अद्यं पुराणपुरुषं नवयौवनं च वेदेषु दुर्लभमदुर्लभमात्मभक्तो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि पन्थासु कोटिशतवत्सरसम्प्रगम्यो वायोरथापि मनसो मुनिपुङ्गवानां स्वपि अस्ति यत्प्रपदसिम्न्यविचिन्त्य तत्त्वे गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि एकोऽपि असौ रचयितुं जगदण्डकोटिं यशक्तिरस्ति जगदण्डशयायदन्तः अण्डान्तरस्थपरमाणुचयान्तरस्थं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। यद्भावभावितधियो मनुजास्तथैव सम्प्राप्य रूपमहिमां सनयानभूषः सुक्तेर्यमेव निगमः प्रतितैस्तुवन्ति गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। आनन्दचिन्मयरसप्रतिभाविताभिस्ताभिर्य एव निजरूपतया कलाभि गोलोक एव निवसत्यखिलात्मभूतो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। प्रेमाञ्जनश्चुरितभक्तिविलोचनेन सन्तः सदैव हृदयेषु विलोकयन्ति यं श्यामसुन्दरमचिन्त्यगुणस्वरूपं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। रामादिमूर्तिषु कलानियमेन तिष्ठन् नानावतारमकरोद भुवनेषु किन्तु कृष्णः स्वयं समभवत् परमपुमान्यो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। यस्य प्रभा प्रभवतो जगदण्डकोटिषु शेषवसुधादिविभूतिभिन्नं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमनन्तमशेषभूतं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। माया हि यस्य जगदण्डशतानि सूते त्रैगुण्यतद्विषयवेदवितायमाना सत्त्वावलम्बि परसत्त्वविशुद्धसत्त्वं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। आनन्दचिन्मयरसात्मतया मनस्सु यः प्राणिनां प्रतिफलं स्मरतामुपेत्य लीलायितेन भुवनानि जयत्यजस्रं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। गोलोकनाम्नि निजधाम्नि तले च तस्य देवी महेश हरिधामषु तेषु ते ते प्रभावनिचया विहिताश्च येन गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। सृष्टिस्थितिप्रलयसाधनशक्तिरेका छायेव यस्य भुवनानि बिभर्ति दुर्गा इच्छानुरूपमपि यस्य च चेष्टते सा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। क्षीरं यथा दधिविकारविशेषयोगात् सञ्जायते न हि ततः पृथगस्ति हेतुः यः शम्भुतामपि तथा समुपैति कार्यात् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। दीपार्चिरेव हि दशान्तरमभ्युपेत्य दीपायते विवृद्धहेतुसमानधर्मा यस्तादृगेव हि च विष्णुतया विभाति गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। यः कारणार्णवजले भजति स्म योग निद्रामनन्तजगदण्डसरोमकूपः आधारशक्तिमवलम्ब्य परां स्वमूर्तिं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि। यस्यैकनिश्वसितकालमथावलम्ब्य जीवन्ति लोमविलजा जगदण्डनाथः विष्णोर्महासह्यस्य कलाविशेषो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि भास्वान् यथा स्म सकलेषु निजेषु तेजः स्वीयं कियत् प्रकटयत्यपि तत्त्वदत्र ब्रह्माय एष जगदण्डविधानकर्ता गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यत्पादपल्लवयुगं विनिधाय कुम्भ वन्दे प्रणामसमये सगणाधिराज विघ्नान् विहन्तुमलयस्य जगत्त्रयस्य गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि अग्निर्महीर्गगनमम्बुमरुद्दिशश्च कालस्तथात्ममनसीति जगत्त्रयाणि यस्माद्भवन्ति विभवन्ति विशन्ति यं च गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यश्चक्षुरेश सविता सकलग्रहाणां राजा समस्तसुरमूर्तिरशेषतेजः यस्याग्नया भ्रमति संभ्रतकालचक्रो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि धर्मोदपापनिचयः श्रुतयस्तपांसि ब्रह्मादिकीटव्रतगावधयश्च जीवः यद्दत्तमात्रविभव प्रकटप्रभावा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यस्त्वेन्द्रगोपमथवेन्द्रमहो स्वकर्म बन्धानुरूपफलभाजनमातनोति कर्माणि निर्दहति किन्तु च भक्तिभाजां गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि यं क्रोधकामसहजप्रणयादिभीति वात्सल्यमोहगुरुगौरवसेव्यभावे सञ्चिन्त्य तस्य सदृशीं तनुमापुरेते गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि श्रियः कान्तः कान्तः परमपुरुषः कल्पतरवो ध्रुवा भूमिश्चिन्तामणि गणमयी तोयममृतं कथागानं नाट्यं गमनमपि वंशी प्रियसखी चिदानन्दं ज्योतिः परमपि तदस्वाद्यमपि च निमेषार्धाख्यो वा व्रजति नहि यत्रापि समयः भजे श्वेतद्वीपं तमहं इह गोलोकमिति यं विदन्तस्ते सन्तः क्षितिविरलचारः कटिपये श्री श्री ब्रह्म संहिता की जय।
Hare Krishna. A very warm welcome to all the devotees to our Sunday morning program today. So we'll begin with Srimad Bhagavatam class, and as you know, today's speaker is His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. This class will be relayed live on Radha Gopinath media channel on YouTube, both in English as well as in Hindi. The Hindi translation will also be available in Bhaktivedanta Hall on the ground floor. जिन भक्तों को ये प्रवचन हिंदी में सुनना है उनके लिए ये अनुवादित किया जाएगा भक्तिवेदांत हॉल में, और यूट्यूब पे भी इसका सीधा प्रसारण होगा. At 10 a.m. we'll have prasadam for all. Please note that there will be two separate queues, one for Prabhuji and one for Mataji's. The queue for Prabhuji's will start from the corridor of Gaur Nitai Hall, and for Mataji's it will start from the corridor of Gopalji Hall. Free prasad coupons are being distributed in the temple courtyard till 9:15. So devotees are requested to collect their free coupons till 9:15 a.m. As you may be aware, the temple has started Sunday feast program in the evening between 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. especially for the benefit of newcomers. This includes Kirtan, RGCC drama by children, spiritual talk by a senior brahmachari, followed by Sunday feast prasadam for all. Today evening, His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu will be giving a spiritual talk on finding shelter amidst material wars. So this is a right opportunity and a wonderful opportunity for all of us to invite our neighbors, friends, family members, colleagues, students, and contacts who may be spiritually inquisitive and are also looking for higher purpose and clarity in life. So please spread the word and encourage newcomers to join. Bhaktivedanta Academy for Culture and Education base is pleased to announce the following courses. Bhakti Shastri course in Hindi online from 30th of July will be conducted every Thursday and Saturday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. This will be conducted by His Grace HariGovind Prabhu and His Grace Pran Gopinath Prabhu. Then there is a Bhakti Vedanta online course in English covering systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 7 to 12. This is being conducted by His Grace Pavaneshwar Prabhu from 26th of September. There is a Bhakti Vedanta online course in Marathi covering systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 7 to 12 is being brought by and is being conducted by Deen Gaurang Prabhu from 25th of July. There is a Bhakti Vaibhav online course in Marathi covering systematic study of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 to 6, which is being conducted by His Grace Deen Gaurang Prabhu from 25th of September. There is a Bhagavad Gita course covering systematic and comprehensive study of in English, which is being conducted by His Grace Mukund Mala Prabhu at Bhaktivedanta Hall on the ground floor from 3rd of July. It has already started, and this is especially for the new devotees. A 3-session seminar titled Killing the Demons of Vrindavan for Inner Transformation Through Vraj Pastimes is being held from 14th to 16th of August at Bhaktivedanta Hall on the ground floor. This is being conducted. The theme is on devotional explanation of how hearing Lord Krishna in Vraj pastimes and his killing of demons helps us conquer our inner anarthas and awaken pure bhakti. The course is being conducted by His Grace Shivram Prabhu. ISKCON Chowpatty Unbound presents a panel discussion on the topic Surrender Unto Me. This panel discussion is going to be with His Grace Govind Prabhu on 26th of July at 5:30 p.m. This will be followed by Prasadam. This is for the youth in the age group of 15 to 30 years. If you are feeling overwhelmed by life's constant battles, trying to control everything, but still feeling lost, anxious, and stressed, then this is the time to drop the heavy baggage, break free from the pressures, and discover the ultimate strength that comes from surrendering. So this is a nice panel discussion along with His Grace Govind Prabhu. For course details, eligibility, and registrations, kindly see the posters on the temple notice board on the ground floor. You may also visit the website courses.iskonchowpatty.com. A humble request to all the devotees to kindly keep their mobile phones on silent mode when the class is on. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन, यमुना तीरावनचारी। हो जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। Everyone is kindly requested to switch off your mobile phone or put it in silent mode. Hare
Kacharya Shtotar Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace Abhay Charanarvinda, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, entitled Description of the Kingdom of God, text 47. Tattvam vidam bhagavan paramatma tattvam sattve sampratiratim rachayantamesham yatte anutap viditair drudha bhakti yogair udgranthyato hridhi vidur munayo viragaha. Tvam vidam bhagavan paramatma tattvam Satven sampratiratiim rachayantamesham. Yatte anutap viditair drudha bhakti yogair. Udgranthaya orudi vidur munayo viragaha. Tvam vidam bhagavan paramatma tattvam. Satven sampratiratim rachayantamesham. Yatte anutap viditair drudha bhakti yogair. Udgranthaya vidur munayo viragaha. Please. Forward translation. Tam, him. Tvam, you. Vidam, we know. Bhagavan, O Supreme Personality of Godhead. Param, the Supreme, Atma Tattvam, absolute truth, Satvena, by your form of pure goodness, Samprati, now, Ratim, love of God, Rachayantam, creating, Isham, of all of them, Yat, which, Te, your, Anutap, mercy, Viditai, understood, Drudha, unflinching, Bhakti Yogai, through devotional service, Udgranthaya, without attachment, free from material bondage, Riddhi, in the heart, Vidu, understood, Munaya, great sages, Viragaha, not interested in material life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We know that you are the Supreme Absolute Truth, the Personality of Godhead, who manifests this transcendental form in the uncontaminated mode of pure goodness. This transcendental eternal form of your personality can be understood only by your mercy through unflinching devotional service by great sages whose hearts have been purified in the devotional way. Purport. The absolute truth can be understood in three features: impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here it is admitted that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the last word in understanding the absolute truth. Even though the four Kumaras were instructed by the great learned Father Brahma, they could not actually understand the absolute truth. They could only understand the Supreme Absolute Truth when they personally saw the personality of Godhead with their own eyes. In other words, if one sees or understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the other two features of the Absolute Truth, namely impersonal Brahman and localized Paramatma, are also automatically understood. Therefore, the Kumaras confirm, you are the ultimate Absolute Truth. The impersonalist may argue that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead was so nicely decorated, he was therefore not the Absolute Truth. But here it is confirmed that all the variegatedness of the Absolute platform is constituted of Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. In the material world, any quality, goodness, passion, or ignorance is contaminated. Even if the quality of goodness here in the material world is not free from tinges of passion and ignorance. But in the transcendental world, only pure goodness, without any tinge of passion or ignorance, exists. Therefore, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His variegated pastimes and paraphernalia are all pure Sattva Guna. Such variegatedness is pure goodness is exhibited in pure goodness is exhibited eternally by the Lord for the satisfaction of the devotee. The devotee does not want to see the Supreme Personality of Absolute Truth in voidness or in personalism. In one sense, absolute transcendental variegatedness is meant only for the devotees, not for others. Because this distinct feature of transcendental variegatedness can be understood only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and not by mental speculation or the ascending process. It is said that one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead when one is even slightly favored by Him. Otherwise, without His mercy, a man may speculate for thousands of years and not understand what is actually the absolute truth. This mercy can be perceived by the devotee when he is completely freed from contamination. It is stated, therefore, that only when all contamination is rooted out and the devotee is completely detached from material attractions can he receive the mercy of the Lord. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. My dear Lord, please guide us all so that we can understand you as the supreme truth and supreme value and the supreme source of joy and align our life accordingly. Hare Krishna. Today morning we are discussing one of the most perplexing episodes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the episode. I will speak this in three broad parts. I'll write and draw certain things. I'll talk about the context first, what is going on over here. Then I'll discuss some broad insights. So I generally use this acronym CHIT to discuss any Bhagavatam class. First, the context, what is going on. Then we'll look at some insights. And then finally, we'll discuss some takeaways. So what we can learn from it. Now, this is the context is, we are right now in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam over here. Sorry, we are in the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the middle. You consider go back over here. In the third canto, till now, among all the cantos, this is the longest canto. The first canto had 19 chapters, second canto has 10 chapters, and the third canto has 32 chapters. And right now, we are in the middle of it. We are right now here in the chapter called the Description of the Kingdom of God. And sometimes the Bhagavatam is so vast that understanding its structure and flow becomes quite difficult. Now, structure is relatively easy to understand. Okay, this section is talking about this. This section is talking about this. That's the structure. But the flow is even more difficult to understand. That, okay, why is this particular point being discussed? Why is this particular story being discussed? How does the story lead to that story? Now, there are various ways in which the Acharyas have analyzed the structure and the flow of the Bhagavatam. One way we can look at it is from the point of the purpose of the Bhagavatam textually. The purpose is that Parikshit Maharaj has been unfairly cursed. And while he has not expressed any resentment about what has happened to him, for a trivial fault, he has been severely cursed. He has not expressed any fault. But that, it's always a possibility that, okay, why did this happen to me? One of the things that Yudhishthir Maharaj asked the sages when he's in the forest, after he has lost everything in that fateful gambling match, he asks, has anyone suffered the way I have suffered? And what is the reason for this? How do I make sense of it? So Parikshit Maharaj asked explicitly that question, but in many ways, the stories that are emphasized in the Bhagavatam are all centered on this theme of life's unfairness. Almost every single story, if you look at the key stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam, among the stories, this is the first story. This is the story of the Kumaras, and more importantly, the Kumaras are characters who come right now over here, but they don't reappear. But the fallout of the story actually extends all over the Bhagavatam. That is Jai Vijay. They are cursed, they are characters who appear again and again. So in many ways, Jai Vijay suffer a curse over here. If you go in the next canto, we have Dhruva. Small child, no fault of his, and still he is viciously mistreated. We go after that, canto after canto, there's a similar theme over there. Bharat Maharaj, as Jad Bharat, for no fault of his, is chastised. Vritrasur, no fault of his, he is cursed. Again, Prahalad, we go to Bali Maharaj. And the highest is the gopis. They're not exactly cursed, but they give up everything for the Lord, and the Lord gives them up. And it's extremely unbearable. So basically, one of the underlying themes of the Bhagavatam is that in the world, there are broadly, we could say, three realities. That there is the Jiva, there is the Jagat. Now, of course, we are a part of the Jagat, but we experience the world also. We are in the world, but we experience the world through the actions of people, through the events of life. And now, above this is Jagadish, is the Supreme Lord. So, Prabhupada talks about nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness as the title of chapter 13. So, the same three truths. Now, one of the consistent themes of the Bhagavatam is that from the world, what we will get is unfairness. That the world's unfairness is simply a fact of life. See, it's not just the distressfulness of the world. And dukkha is there, it's bad, it's not pleasant. But what really irritates people, what really disheartens is not just the distressfulness, but the unfairness of the distress. Why am I singled out for suffering like this? So now the theme of the Bhagavatam is, one of the themes, I won't say the only theme, is that rather than focusing on the world's unfairness, focus on the Lord's mercifulness. Rather than expecting that the world will stop being unfair, we focus on how even amid the world's mercifulness, the world's unfairness, the Lord's mercifulness is still not just a reality, but it is the bigger reality. We see this in one of the concluding pastimes. So in many ways, among the pastimes in the Bhagavatam, which begin after Shukdev Goswami starts speaking, the first pastime actually, the detailed pastime. Till now we have had, before this, the beginning of the creation. Brahma has appeared, Brahma has offered prayers. But the major pastime is this one. And if you see, there's an amazing cyclicity in the Bhagavatam, that the first pastime is of Jai Vijay being cursed terribly. And the last major pastime in the Bhagavatam is of the Avanti Brahmana. And what happens? He is also treated terribly. That comes in the Uddhav Gita. And he also eventually learns to shift his vision away from the world towards the Lord. Now, this does not mean that we shouldn't do anything about the world's unfairness. We'll move forward and we'll discuss how the world's unfairness is dealt with in two different ways. One is transcending it, like Parikshit Maharaj, he's cursed. His curse is not reversed. On the contrast, we say Dhruva, Prahalad, they are in horrible situations, and the horrible situation gets corrected. But they don't know when it's going to get corrected. So the point is that it's not that we always have to passively accept the world's unfairness. Sometimes it can be removed also. But the point is, while it's unfair, the unfairness of the world should not stop us from accessing the mercifulness of the Lord, from focusing on the Lord. And here, if we see that at one level, Jai Vijay are completely flawless. They're not really to be blamed. The Kumaras were just looking like small children. And they just nonchalantly came into the Vaikuntha. Now, as doorkeepers, it is their duty to restrict, duty to protect, duty to prevent the disruption. And they were only doing in one sense, doing their job. But their spiritual stature was not apprehended, was not understood by the Kumara. Of the Kumaras, the spiritual stature was not understood by Jai Vijay. And because of that, they were cursed. So the idea is, if we consider Parikshit Maharaj, the first major story that is being told is of something that is far more unfair than what happened to Parikshit Maharaj also. With respect to Parikshit Maharaj, at least there was some fault. He, out of his hunger or thirst, or both, he ended up disrespecting a sage. Although he thought that the sage had disrespected him first by not paying any attention to him. But at least there was some fault from his side. Now, of course, as a king, he knows the principle of justice. And he knows, generally, the punishment should be proportional to the wrong. So what he has got is far, far severe. But with respect to Jai Vijay, what is the fault? It's just that they were doing their job, they didn't recognize someone. And that's why they're cursed. Were they disrespectful? Well, yes. But did that disrespect deserve such punishment? So the point is that sometimes the way the world works can seem very disproportionate, can seem very distorted, can seem very distressing because it seems so disproportionate and so distorted. But even through it all, some divine plan of the Lord is working. And in this particular situation, right now, the verses we are on is, the Kumaras are beholding the Lord and are offering prayers to the Lord. And Paramatma Tattvam. There are very significant words in this particular verse. So I've completed the context part now. I'll start moving to the insight part in the session. So here the Kumaras are offering prayers. And in the prayers, in this particular prayer, the theme they are expressing is their own realization of the nature of the ultimate truth, the nature of ultimate reality. And they're telling that you indeed are the supreme truth. And Prabhupada in the purport explains that while there are various conceptions of the divine, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Bhagavan is the highest. So the Bhagavatam is doing many things at the same time. See, through its stories, it's not just that one lesson is being conveyed. Multiple lessons are being conveyed. So in some ways, through this story, Shukadeva Goswami is addressing Parikshit Maharaj's need, but he is also to some extent reflecting on a story that also reflects that is like his own spiritual autobiography. He also grew with the impersonal conception, and then he encountered the Lord. When he heard the glories of the Lord, Parikshit Maharaj's encounter with Bhagavan was through his ears. For the Kumaras, their encounter of Bhagavan was through almost all their senses. Kinjal kamishra tulasi makaranda vayu. They experienced the fragrance of the Lord, tulsi that was offered to the Lord. Also experienced, they saw the Lord right now in front of them. So the experience of the Lord has led them to now understand whatever conception of God I've had, actually this is God. So that evolution in one's conception of God, that is also being described. So in one sense, when we march on the spiritual path, sometimes we march, sometimes we crawl, and sometimes we are dragged. But however we move along with the spiritual journey is not just a matter of how many rules we follow or how strictly the rules we follow. That's important, no doubt. But ultimately, it's an evolution in our conception of God. So, when we use the word God, there is, at one level, philosophically, God is the ultimate reality. Sarva karana karanam, aham sarvasya prabhavo. So, God is that which is the highest reality, that which is the ultimate value, that which is the supreme truth, Atma Tattvam, as Prabhupada translates that over here. So we could say, philosophically, God is the ultimate reality. Now, some people may say, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. Well, yes and no. See, philosophically, people may not believe in some ultimate reality. But psychologically, everybody has a God. What is God? God is whatever is one's ultimate reality. So whatever is one's ultimate reality, that is their God. That is, they may not call it God, but that is their God. So for somebody, money is the most important thing. Then money becomes their God. So for somebody, power may be the biggest thing. Somehow or the other I have to get power. For the sake of power, they will give up everything else. So that is their God. So now, psychologically, everybody has some conception of God. And here we are using the word God in the sense of the locus of ultimate value, whatever they consider as the most important thing. For somebody, their looks are most important. Then their looks, the appearance is God. If somebody looks attractive, that's the most important thing. Now, that's an important thing, how one looks. But that becomes the most important thing. So the idea is that in many ways, all of us, we have some conception of what is God, and there is actually God. So our conception of God, how it evolves till it aligns with the ultimate conception of God. So that is the spiritual journey. So our spiritual journey is basically, let's say, if this is my conception of God, somebody may be very intellectual, very analytical. For them, study and learning and academic achievement, that is their God. And there is the ultimate God. There is the being who is actually God. So how we evolve from our conception of God to the reality of who God is. That is the essence of our spiritual journey. Now, when we say our conception of God, say, I think Krishna is God. Well, if we are practicing devotees, we'll say Krishna is God. And yes, that is true. However, what we value is seen much more through our actions than simply through our words. So, in our actual life, what do we value? Certainly, if we don't value Krishna, we wouldn't be here. But is Krishna our ultimate value? Maybe sometimes not. It depends. So now, and initially I showed these as two completely non-intersecting things. But they don't have to be. They're very rarely that non-intersecting. I was in America, and after one program, this was in the Bible Belt in America. The Bible Belt is a part of America where it's with southern part, which is very religious. For us Indians, often we think of America as Hollywood and materialism. But from the Western perspective, America is the most religious country in the Western world. Yeah, none other country, no, Canada or UK or Australia, New Zealand, all of them are much more atheistic. When I was in New Zealand, at that time, when a Kiwi person had come here talking, he asked me, where all do you travel? So I said, I spent almost 5-6 months in America. Really? He says, that's the country where those religious nuts elected Trump. So the rest of the Western world, America is considered to be an extreme religious country. Now, it's not entirely true. America, especially the coastal parts, are very, very materialistic, very nihilistic, but the Midland and southern part are quite religious. So anyway, I was there in the Bible Belt, and there, after a college program, one young man came to me. We were talking, and he said, I'm an atheist currently. I said, okay, what do you mean by currently? Sometimes somebody makes a whole sentence, but one word stands out. So what do you mean? What do you mean currently? He said that I pray to God. Whenever my desire is fulfilled, I believe in God. Whenever my desire is not fulfilled, I stop believing in God. So I asked him that, with all due respect, that whenever somebody starts a sentence with all due respect, that means what they're going to speak is not going to be very respectful. So I said, with all due respect, whether God, if God exists, He exists, independent of whether your desire is fulfilled or not. So don't you see the illogicality in what you're saying? He said that I'm not really concerned whether God exists or not. I am concerned whether God matters to me. If He is not fulfilling my desire, then He doesn't matter to me. So if He fulfills my desires, He matters, and I believe in Him. So he says, my belief is not based on His existence. My belief is based on His relevance. Which is a very interesting logic. I hadn't thought about it in those blatant terms. That is, whether God exists or not, it's a matter of not just existence. Like many people may say God exists, but does God really matter to them? So another way we can depict our spiritual journey is, initially for us, the world is very big. And God, even if He exists, He is small. As we grow spiritually, the world becomes smaller and God becomes bigger for us. So it's not that the world becomes false, but the world becomes smaller. So when I was introduced to Bhakti about 30 years ago, I was so enthusiastic about the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. I started talking about it with everyone, with my friends, my relatives, acquaintances. So one of my uncles, he told me, God, I have got a very good relationship with God. Really? I hadn't seen him much either go to a temple or read any philosophical books or discuss anything spiritual. I asked him, what do you mean by a good relationship with God? He said, mutual non-interference. He is happy there, I am happy here. So for many people, the value, they may not say I'm an atheist, but psychologically for them, God matters only if He helps them in what matters for them. So in one sense, what happens if I go back, if I refine this particular diagram, that what matters for me? So what matters ultimately to me and God as the ultimate reality. So often the relevance of God depends on whether these two interfere. So what matters to me and God. So God is the ultimate reality, but maybe my health is the most important reality for me. Maybe my financial security is the most important reality. Maybe I'm going through a difficult relationship and fixing that relationship is the most important thing for me. Now, these are not trivial concerns. They are all important. But often when we what matters to me is there. So we see God through the filter of what matters to me. And if what matters to me is being provided by God, then God exists, God matters, God cares. And if what matters to me is not being provided, then it can go through all three levels. That God exists but doesn't care. God may exist but God doesn't matter at all. Or God doesn't exist at all. So in that sense, when we grow in spiritual life, when we initially come to the practice of bhakti, we all have certain things that matter for us. And it is through that filter we approach God. And after that, as we move forward, over a period of time, what can happen is that life brings us to a crossroad. Crossroad is what? Many times something matters for us and we get what matters to us. And when we get that, we feel peaceful. We feel good. Yeah, this thing is working. I just came from Australia a month or so ago. So after my classes, people ask me questions and I answer the questions at that time, but then I also think how the question could be answered better. So one Australian devotee came, he said, "Have you heard of bait and switch?" I said, "Yeah." Bait and switch is the idea that you promise people something as a bait, but afterwards you provide them completely, what you provide is completely different. Bait and switch. So it's considered deceptive tactic that is used in, say, marketing. You promise a product will provide something else, but then when people buy it, oh, actually it doesn't provide you, it provides something else. So he said, "Yeah." I said, "I think you people are doing that." I said, "Okay, what makes you say that?" He says, "When I was introduced to bhakti, I was told that chant Hare Krishna and your anxiety will go away. But now, chanting Hare Krishna is my biggest anxiety." So he said, "Every day I have to think, when will I get time to complete my rounds and whether I'm doing good quality or not." He said, "Instead of anxiety going away, I've got a new source of anxiety in my life now." So he said, this is vintage bait and switch. You are deceiving us. I said, that's a fair criticism. That, yes, I told him that when we talk about anxiety, in many ways, anxiety is like pain. And if we consider anxiety or pain, both of these are experiences. We may experience some pain, we may experience some anxiety. Now, the experience itself has to be processed with our intelligence. Otherwise, what that experience means is not very clear. So, for example, if a child has pain in the belly, and the parents take the child to a doctor, and the doctor says that, "Oh, it's got an infection, we have to give him an injection." And the doctor takes out a needle to give an injection, and the child says, "Mommy, you told me he will free me from pain, but he's giving more pain." So the experience of the pain is the same, but the intelligence helps us to understand that the pain is not the same. There is a pain that is the result of the disease, and there is the pain that will result in the removal of the disease. So although from the experience perspective, both pains are the same, but it is with intelligence we understand that both pains are not the same. So similarly with respect to anxiety, yes, anxiety is a fact of life. That this world is, the spiritual world is Vaikuntha, it is a place free from anxiety. And the material world is, you can say opposite of this, Kuntha, it is a place of anxiety. But there is the anxiety caused by the uncontrolled mind with its wild desires. And there is the anxiety caused by trying to calm and cure the uncontrolled mind. Both from the experience perspective are anxiety. But with intelligence, we understand that the first anxiety, the anxiety because of wild desires, not just running through us, but making us run and ruling us basically. That anxiety is endless. That anxiety will keep growing and growing and growing. Chintam aparimeyam ta pralayantam upashrita. Krishna says that chinta aparimeyam, it's immeasurable. And pralayantam upashrita. It is unending. So pralaya can refer to death. It can refer to ultimate destruction, the destruction of the material universe. So as long as we are alive, our desires will keep growing within us and they'll keep subjecting us to anxiety. Now, when we practice bhakti, when we remember Krishna, by that, gradually, our mind is becoming purified. And as our mind becomes purified, our anxieties will eventually decrease. So it's not bait and switch. It is actually, yes, we say that chanting will decrease the anxiety. And it does decrease anxiety. Now, does it create an anxiety of its own? Yes, because it's a process being followed. And the process, while we are following it, it has some trouble, some pain, some anxiety with it. So essentially, going back to this particular diagram, so if we consider that there is what matters to me and what ultimately matters. So we can say God is what? What ultimately matters. Or we could say, if you want to consider a person, who ultimately matters. But let's focus at the level of concepts right now. So what matters to me and what matters ultimately. So as we grow in spiritual life, essentially what happens? These two circles start overlapping more and more. That what matters to me and what matters ultimately, they start becoming more and more aligned with each other. And this is what the growth in spiritual life is. That what matters to me and what matters ultimately, the two become more and more aligned. Now, what matters to me? What does it depend on? I said earlier, it depends on our desires. And it depends on our worldview. It depends on our priorities. We could say it depends on the gunas. Now, one of the themes which I have been deliberating is that when it says that you have to go beyond the three modes to understand God, Krishna exists beyond the modes. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhava Arjuna. So what does it actually mean when we say that we have to go beyond the modes to truly know God or truly love God? Among the many things that the gunas do, one of the things is the gunas shape our values. And when we are in a particular guna, then a particular thing becomes extremely valuable for us. So for example, if we consider the three gunas, there is tamas, rajas, sattva. So in tamas, quite often the greatest value is comfort. Comfort means, oh, I just want to live comfortably. I don't want any trouble. So the success of a day is how many tasks I successfully avoided. So the idea is, in tamas, one just wants to live in comfort. Lethargy, apathy, all those are characteristics. But nothing should disturb my comfort. So there was there was some survey done in America about 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago it was, that a wide cross-section of American people were asked, what is your conception of paradise? So, a significant number of people, they replied, eating popcorn and watching TV. Oh, if I could just do that for the rest of eternity. So what the idea is? Just comfort. Now, when there is rajas, at that time, what becomes most important is control. Now, control to fulfill some desires, to gain some pleasure, to achieve something. Control becomes very important. When I travel across the world, many times parents ask me, our kids are so hooked onto their phones. And how do we get them out of the phones? So it feels so hopeless. Because, we parents are just two of us, but the whole world's media is there. How can we counter that influence? So I answer in different ways, but one of the answers I give is that, the question we should be asking is, when our phones have so much attractive things, as compared to the real world, what the phone offers, real means materially real world, we can say, as compared to that, what the phone offers is so much more attractive. Then why is it that everyone is not addicted to their phones all the time? Because everyone is not fully influenced by tamoguna. Even the most tamasic people have some amount of rajas, some amount of sattva. If we were totally into tamas, the concept of bliss would be, I just stay in my room and just watch TV, play video games, surf on social media, scroll, and that's all. Now we do it, we want to escape from life because it is frustrating. But tamas, very rarely does one guna influence a person totally, constantly. We may go into total tamas for some time. We may go into, but eventually it's not. So we want comfort, but comfort is not all that we want in life. There are more things we want in life. In the West, when I go to yoga studios and give talks over there, so many people say we had visited India, and they're not connected with the Krishna consciousness movement. They had come out of yoga. I said, so I asked them, what is your experience of India? They said, it's an experience that I don't want to repeat, but I loved it. What is it that, if comfort is all I want, travel is not comfortable. Traveling to India definitely is not comfortable. Isn't it? So, there's one American commentator, he said that, when I see the traffic in India, he said that the only way the traffic can continue on is God is controlling it. So, there's another, we take sometimes some people for a tour of India. Shaman Prabhu and I, we take some group of people. So, one of the young women, she had come, she said that initially when I came to it, I felt everything was chaotic. But he said, actually, I found that this is a peaceful chaos. And then we went to Vrindavan, and at that time we had gone to the in Barsana, to the Shriji Mandir, and there we were talking. So she said, actually, this is not just peaceful chaos; this is joyful chaos. So who is coming in from where? People are simply pushing against each other. But he said that everything is going on, and people are not just peaceful; they're joyful over it. So the idea is that these people, the point I'm making is that if we just wanted comfort in life, why would we venture out and do anything else? Because comfort is one thing we value, but we often value something more in life. Now, we have a sense of adventure. Okay, I want to go out and do things in life. So now, is comfort a bad thing? Well, it's not itself a bad thing. We don't have to be uncomfortable. But comfort is not the most important thing. Is control important? Of course, we all need some control in our life. Anything we want to do in life, we need a certain level of control, without which we cannot function. Right now, I am giving this class, then at the start of the class, they announce that keep the phone silent. Now, now that's a certain level of control that is being exercised. So the idea is that control is required. But suppose in a class, say, a mother has a young child and the child starts crying. Now, if the child starts crying, now that's an interruption. But if at that time I start yelling at the mother, no matter how good my class will be, at the end of the class, all of you what will remember is how I yelled at the mother. Isn't it? So, I need control, but control is not the most important thing. So, for all of us, we value God based on what we value. So, for somebody, if a phase of life is very comfortable, and comfort is what they value, yeah, God exists, God is good. If somebody values control, then if they make plans and their plans work out, yeah, God is very good. God is very good. Things work out nicely. And if things don't work out, why is God doing this? Why doesn't God listen to my prayers? I tried so hard. I was doing all this for God only. Why is He not doing this? So we may or may not articulate it, but those thoughts come up inside us. Now, when we are in sattva, quite often what we value is calmness. So many times people who come to a temple, they say, man ki shanti chahiye. And when we want calmness, then if we come to a temple, we feel peaceful. We feel some kind of sublime experience. And that's what people come for. Now, to some extent, many psychologists, sociologists, they were predicting that as science and technology advanced, religion will die out. The idea of God will become irrelevant for people. And people will stop believing in it. But that hasn't happened. As it is true that atheism has increased across the world, but religion has experienced a significant resurgence all over the world. Like I said, in America, there's been a huge resurgence of evangelical Christianity and even Catholicism. In the Middle East, religion has risen enormously. In India, you've seen religion rising. In Russia, after communism fell, religion has risen. In China also, although officially it's an atheistic country, but there is a significant amount of practice. So it's just that what people expect from religion has changed. In many ways, science and technology, they have provided us comfort and control. Technology, for example, now we have air conditioning. And that's provided us some comfort. When you want to travel, we have airplanes and we have cars. So that's comfort is also there, control is also there. But God, what we value in life, there are different things we value. One thing that technology cannot provide us is calmness of the mind. Now, technology can provide entertainment. Entertainment does not calm our mind. Entertainment helps us to escape from our mind for some time. The mind, is saying this, this went wrong, this person did like this, that person did like that, that person did like that. Just turn on some TV, watch something, and hopefully it is so captivating that our attention goes there, and all the complaints about all that is wrong with the world, that at least for that time does not trouble us. Whether it's Bollywood or Hollywood or Tollywood or whatever wood it is, they make hundreds of movies. Most of the movies, they flop. So previously there was a word called blockbuster. Now there's a new word come as a flopbuster. So make a movie with 100 million, it doesn't even make 1 million. So I was in America one day, I had almost 4 university programs. And I was so caught in the other logistics, I didn't know which college the programs were. So I asked the organizer I was going for, which college is this program? He said, this is the American Institute of Illusion. So Institute of Illusion means where they teach people to make movies. So the idea is it's called Institute of Illusion. So I thought the whole world is actually an institute of illusion in one sense. It's creating illusion. But the point is, why do movies flop? Because the illusion is not good enough. The illusion, what happens is our mind is complaining, oh, this went wrong, that went wrong. And then if the actors are not, the acting is wooden, or the story is completely unrealistic, or the plot twists are there such that they are all filled with coincidence, it doesn't seem realistic. Then what happens is that the mind doesn't get, attention doesn't get escaped into that. Our attention starts complaining about that also. So we are complaining about the world and we are complaining about the movies also. So basically the idea is, through technology and technological advancement, we can temporarily run away from our mind. But we cannot actually calm our mind. Now, running away from our mind can seem like calmness, but it is actually not calmness. It is simply escapism. And that's why it's often called as escapist entertainment. So, there is the English calm and there is the Sanskrit calm. So, so what happens is that we need to choose. But what people think is we can have both. That I can fuel my desires as much as I want, but then I can have a peaceful mind also. No. If we want calmness of the mind, then calm in terms of our unrestrained desires, they have to be decreased. Now, when we watch entertainment, what happens? Do we actually get calmer? No, we escape from our mind for some time, but in the process of escaping from our mind, quite often, the Sanskrit calm is increased by it. And after that dopamine hit goes down, then we feel even worse. Actually, we don't get that calmness. So when people come to God, the point I was making is, the whole talk, the structure of the talk right now is that our conception of God and actual God, how we evolve on that journey. So what we value, if we valued comfort or control, to some extent technology has provided us that. But we also value, to whatever extent Sattva Guna is there within us, we value calmness. And that technology and science cannot provide us. And that is why people are turning more and more towards spirituality, towards God. So I was in Sydney in a yoga studio giving a program, and they said that, so this was one yoga studio that was almost like a area where there are many yoga studios. So this was yoga studio I was going to, and there's another yoga studio opposite. So as I was going for the yoga studio, they said, this is the no oming, no humming yoga studio. So I asked the organizer, what is this? He said that there are many people who come to yoga and they are spiritually quite receptive and open-minded. But there are some people who just don't like the spiritual side. And that demographic is also significant. So some yoga studios proudly say that this is only physical yoga. There is no oming and no humming. So no oming means no mantra like Oma chanted, no humming means no kirtan, no spirituality. So I investigated that afterwards a little bit. There are whole big yoga teachers and there are books, Yoga for Atheists. So yoga is actually connection. Whom are you connecting with? And it's not only yoga for atheists. There is a prominent atheist who has written a book called Religion for Atheists. Now, what is the idea of religion for atheists? The idea is that they feel that actually the forms of religion, coming together, singing something, discussing something, that gives a sense of community, that gives a sense of calmness. So that is a psychological need which is being provided by religion. And no matter how much we criticize that, the idea of God is irrational, unless we are able to provide that, people will still keep going towards religion. So many people, to the extent they become relatively materially prosperous, they may not come to God for comfort or control, but they do come to people for calmness. And when we want to practice bhakti. It is, in one sense, if we want comfort, will we get comfort? Well, yes. But if comfort is the only thing we want, then we won't really be able to move forward in our life. Because bhakti does require us to, as we say, get out of our comfort zone. That if we come and sit, say in a class, if somebody says, why am I coming and sitting in class? I like to sit in the AC. Well, you can get AC anywhere. If you only want to sit in the AC, okay, I want to sit in the AC, resting against the wall. And I want to just be comfortable. So Radha Maharaj once said, you come to the temple to take shelter of Krishna, not take shelter of the wall. So we have comfort, it's important, but it's not the most important thing. So if somebody has some leg issues or they can't bear the pain, then there are chairs available, they can sit on the chairs. But okay, this chair is too hard. I want a comfortable chair. We don't come to a temple primarily for comfort. We don't come to Krishna primarily for comfort. We all have a particular need of particular level of comfort. We need that. And we normally try to take care of that. So for example, our normal satsang programs, we have in relatively comfortable temple halls or comfortable places where we have satsangs. But if we go for a yatra, in yatra there might not be air conditioning. But then we understand that while comfort is important, Krishna is even more important. Similarly, we all want some level of control in life. But while control is important, Krishna is more important. That I may want things to work out in a particular way, but sometimes things may not work out in that way. And I need to be able to let go of that. Now, in some ways, we do need a certain level of control and control so that we can plan and serve Krishna nicely. But sometimes it doesn't work out like that. So are we able to ready to let go of the control? Similarly, now we all want a certain level of calmness in life. And we want that. And yes, Krishna Bhakti does provide us that calm. But there are times when if we take up responsibilities for Krishna, then the taking up responsibility means that our calmness may go away. One time when the Juhu temple was being built, Tamal Krishna Maharaj came to Prabhupada and he said that, Prabhupada, all these land dealings, getting permission, dealing with all this is causing me great anxiety. It is disturbing my japa. And Prabhupada said, it is disturbing my japa also. He didn't know what to say. And then Prabhupada said, your anxiety for serving Krishna will take you to Krishna. So the idea is, now, is anxiety itself going to take us to Krishna? No. Anxiety, chinta, as a chinta, Krishna says that's not a healthy thing. That's a result of a hyper-controlling mentality. But if we become attached to our calmness, then that can obstruct us in serving Krishna. So the idea is for us, when we say Krishna is beyond even sattva guna, we have to go beyond the three gunas to attain Krishna. That means often the three gunas will determine what we value. And our particular combination of how the three gunas influence us, they will determine what we value, to what degree. And it is not that Krishna doesn't value what we value. It is not that Krishna will not take care of what we value. Krishna will take care of that also. But if our relationship with Krishna is based only on whether he takes care of what we value, then we will not be able to move forward in life. We will stay stuck at that same level. And our faith will never be very strong. Our faith will always be shaky. That brings me to the last point. I'll talk about the takeaway. So CIT. The takeaway is that in this purport itself, Srila Prabhupada seems to raise a question that what comes first? Does mercy come first or does purity comes first? The last sentence Prabhupada says that if you see that I'll just quickly explain. So going back to that is it that first we become purified and then we receive mercy, or do we get mercy and then we become purified? Now in the Bhagavad Gita, the idea that purity comes first is there in 727. 27? Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dudavata. 728. Now the idea that mercy comes first is 1866. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. So, do we have to become purified to receive mercy, or do we get mercy and then we become purified? Or you could put it this way that, is it that when we become pure, we will get taste for the holy name and taste for Krishna? Or is it that we get taste for Krishna and then we become purified? Or to talk about in much broader terms, we have this concept of the higher taste and the lower taste. So is it that we give up the lower taste and then we get the higher taste? So if we consider purity means at one level, give up lower taste. And mercy is get higher taste. Now this is a somewhat simplified understanding, because purity itself can mean both give up lower taste and get higher taste. And mercy can also help us to give up the lower taste and get the higher taste. But let's keep it at this level of analysis at present. So is it that we give up the lower taste and then get the higher taste? Or is it that we get the higher taste and then we give up the lower taste? Which way does it work? So is it that mercy leads to purity, or is it purity leads to mercy? So the idea is yena kena prakarena. However it works. However it works. So if we say mercy of Krishna means that actually what we value and what is of ultimate value, both become aligned together. Purity means that we consciously strive to focus on what is of ultimate value, even if it doesn't seem to be of value right now. So we could say among mercy and purity, which is in our control? Yes, nothing is in our control, you can say. You can say purity itself may not be in our control, but purification, or rather the process of purification, or the process that will lead to purity. So purity is like the destination. Purification is the journey that takes us to the destination. So that we can be on that journey, that is within our control. So I was in Texas, so I conclude with this incident. That he said that there was this, I met one devotee, and he said that, the American devotee, he said that his ancestry goes back to the time, the first, with the one Mayflower, when the settlers came from Europe to America. His ancestors were there in that first group of settlers. And recently America they celebrated their 250th independence celebrations they had. So he said, we are like the original Americans. And they are into cattle ranching. They have been cattle ranching means basically they raise cattle and then they make milk, and then after that they sell beef also. So he says, we have been almost for 10 generations. Right from the first generation itself, when they went, those were in the frontier, they went inland. There are Western movies about what those people did. So he said, we came there. So he said that basically eating meat and eating beef specifically, it's like it's a part of our genes itself. That's what we've been doing generation after generation after generation. He showed me some video clip from some American TV show. He said that's one American is asking another American, are you a vegetarian? No, I'm an American. So the idea is that if you're American, you can't be a vegetarian. So he said that when I was introduced to Bhakti, among all the regulative principles, this no meat eating was the most difficult. And it was not difficult just because I'd grown up with the taste of meat since my childhood. It was just a part of almost every meal that we had. But he felt that I felt as if I was being unfaithful to my family and my tradition. Because this is who we are. How can I give up eating meat? So he said that was actually the most difficult thing for me. But he says, somehow I felt that I should do this. I was quite convinced by the philosophy. I was attracted to bhakti. I did that. And he said last year, when there's this festival of Thanksgiving. Now, their way of gratitude is not something the turkey will feel grateful for. So they kill the turkey and eat it. So he said that there's this Thanksgiving ceremony, and because it's a part of my family, I was there. But while all these food items were there, with most of them having some amount of meat in it, he said, when I was there, I didn't feel even the slightest desire for any of it. He said that was like almost a revelation for me. That I had been practicing bhakti for just about a year or so, and within that, the taste itself had disappeared. So for him, making that decision to practice bhakti and give up meat eating, that was the commitment to purification. But that taste itself disappearing, that is actually the mercy aspect. For most devotees, giving up eating meat is not that difficult. If you are traveling in a train or a plane, if somebody next to us is eating meat, if somebody is watching TV, you might get attracted. Somebody is doing some gossip, you might get attracted. But if they're eating meat, most of us will not get attracted. No, we don't know whether Krishna is all attractive, but Krishna Prasad is all attractive. But the point is that this whole journey of, okay, what I feel I value right now and what I know is of value, that's a choice that we have to make. And then with our buddhi, we commit ourselves to the practice of purification. And that takes time, that takes effort. But along with that, there are these moments of mercy that come when our tastes automatically change. When we just feel, hey, this is different. That craving itself has disappeared. So in one sense, if we say what we can do and what happens. So for example, if I am here, the conscious effort to move from here, from the place where what matters to me to what ultimately matters. Now this is my effort to seek purity. This is my effort to seek purity. That is what but then what happens with the passage of time is that these two circles themselves start overlapping. And when this happens, this change happening, this increased overlap happening, or rather the overlap increasing, that is the mercy. So as we keep moving forward, for us, what we value and what is of value, they start overlapping more and more. That is the process of mercy unfolding in our life. So we strive for purity and we wait for mercy. And Parikshit Maharaj did the same thing. Going back to the starting of the story, he's striving for purity. He's hearing the Bhagavatam, putting all other thoughts aside. And the mercy that will come to him eventually is that when the snake bird comes to bite him, it is not that Krishna prevents the snake bird from coming, but rather by that time his consciousness has become so absorbed in the Lord that the body is no longer something that matters to him. His consciousness becomes so absorbed in the Lord that he has already left his body through his absorption in the Lord. And the snake bird comes and bites him, but it's just a shell that burns. The soul has arisen, Chandai Suparnair, that on the wings of the Vedas, on the wings of the Bhagavatam, the soul has arisen and has already reached Krishna. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. Our broad topic today was, how we grow in bhakti. So we talked about how we grow spiritually. So I talked about C. C was the context. That I discussed how in all the stories in the Bhagavatam, this first story among what is told by Shukadev Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj This is a story which again is about the unfairness towards the Jaya Vijay over here. The last story of the Bhagavatam is about unfairness towards the Avanti Brahmana. So that theme is there, and the Bhagavatam's mood is that the world may be unfair, but even while the world is unfair, Krishna is still merciful. And we need to focus on how Krishna is merciful. And the insight part, the main thing I discussed was how everybody has a conception of God. So we could say what we value, that is psychologically, that is God for us. And what is actually of ultimate value, that is philosophically the ultimate reality. So our spiritual journey is where we move from what we value to what is of ultimate value. So this journey of what we value, we discuss how this is what is of ultimate value, or what is of value ultimately. So we discuss how this is shaped by the gunas. So if we are in tamas, what do we value the most? Comfort. And anything that increases our comfort, that's wonderful. Anything that disturbs our comfort, that is annoying. If we are in rajas, we want control. And if God helps us in fulfilling our desires, fulfilling our plans, gaining our control more and more, then we worship God. If we are in sattva, we value calmness. That we discuss how more and more people are today not coming necessarily towards God for getting comfort or control, but they are coming for calmness. Technology can provide escapism, but it can't provide calmness. But ultimately, what we are seeking is the connection with Krishna. That bhakti is about connecting with Krishna, developing a relationship with Krishna. So our spiritual journey, the takeaway for us is that this journey from what we value to what is of value. How does it happen? At one level, when we want to go on that journey, our commitment to going on that journey is our commitment to purity. So we seek purity. Although I don't feel this as valuable, with my intelligence I understand it is valuable. And therefore I'll commit to it. And mercy will be when both of these, the overlap will increase so much more that we will naturally start remembering Krishna. So for us, like in Damodar Leela, one finger is our effort, the other finger is Krishna's mercy. So like that, we keep seeking purity while we wait for mercy. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, do we have a mic?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for a very insightful, wonderful class. My question is, Prabhuji, you came at the end where it's about choices which we can take to gain the mercy and at the same time the other thing. But sometimes making choices also, our intellect is very convinced that this decision is will align me to Krishna. But somehow or other the bad side of mind always tricks us. What it requires to be very simple and very convincing with intellect to make a right choice.
Okay. Sometimes we may convince that something is the right choice, but we are not able to do it. So I think that's fair enough, because see, there is wisdom and there is willpower. So both are not the same things. Wisdom is important, but wisdom is not the sole basis of willpower. So if that were the basis, then everybody who understands that addiction is bad should be able to give up addiction, isn't it? Is it that anybody who continues to be an addict is actually not convinced addiction is bad? No, not necessarily. So then with wisdom, what we need to do is that ideally what we would like is our wisdom is strong. We have wisdom and we have willpower also. That is where we would like to be. But if we are not there, then we have to honestly assess our capacity. The bhakti is not digital. It's analog. Digital, and moment to moment we are making choices, whether I've been Krishna or Maya. But overall, each one of us has to be honest about our capacities. So like Dhruva, when he's talking with Narad Muni, Narad Muni tells him, don't take this insult so seriously. Let's go back to the kingdom. And what does Dhruva say? He says, yes, what you're saying is true, but it doesn't work for me. So he's honest. This was not in my capacity. He does not reject the wisdom, but he acknowledges that this doesn't work for me. So I think we need guides who will help us, who will understand where we are. So it's like from the journey from wisdom to willpower. Say, for example, this is a higher level, this is a lower level. So if I am here right now somewhere, I would like to go toward the higher level. But it's not that if I'm at the lower level, I'm non-devotee, and if I'm at the higher level, I'm a devotee. It can be a range. So the idea is we need to arrange for us. Arrange means what? What is acceptable for me? Say, for example, if somebody can't wake up in the morning, maybe they get too much cough or whatever, their body is so, their cycles are such that they do their best work at night. Then, okay, we may not be able to do my sadhana in the morning, but during the course of the day, sometime I'll do it. So we can't always stick to the same boundaries that are standard. But that doesn't mean we don't have any boundaries at all. So we have to see what is my capacity right now and act accordingly. So, and by that, gradually as we become purified, then we will be able to apply it more and more. And then we'll be able to become more aligned. So we adjust the range accordingly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. You mentioned here that sometimes people think what matters the most to me and what actually really matters. So I'm thinking something in this regard. Sometimes we often have some expectations from our loved ones, and so we try to fulfill those expectations, and sometimes they fulfill our expectations, and we consider that as an exchange of love, or maybe that strengthens the relationship between two parties. So is it okay if we also have expectations from God, and which may further develop our relationship or strengthen our relationship better?
Yeah, good question. See, in any relationship, we have expectations. If those expectations are fulfilled, the relationship goes stronger. So would that apply to Krishna also? Yes, definitely. And it's not that the millions of people who are a part of the resurgence of religion today are all coming out of pure devotional service. So they're seeking something which they need, and they're getting it. So it's not that Krishna doesn't care for what we care for. And it's not wrong for us to expect something from Krishna. Say, if our child is sick and we pray to Krishna, please heal my child. Hey, no, should we at that, before worrying at that time, is this a material desire, is this a spiritual desire? No, we focus on connecting with Krishna. The connection with Krishna is more important than the purity of the connection. Sometimes what happens, we try to practice, we try to become pure devotees before we become devotees only. That means in trying to maintain the purity of the connection, we don't have any connection left. So that is not healthy at all. So the problem is not having expectations. The problem is becoming attached to the expectations. In any relationship, expectations are natural. But if those expectations are not fulfilled, what do we do? Now, and going back to the relationship metaphor itself, that if we are committed to a relationship, then even if the expectation is not fulfilled, we find a way to continue that relationship. We can understand, okay, maybe this person has this nature, this person has this priority. So if they are not fulfilling my expectation, why is that? Then maybe they are fulfilling my expectation in some other direction, maybe not in this direction. So like that, we need to understand that if Krishna does not fulfill our expectation, that doesn't mean that I give up the relationship. Many times, because it's a relationship with Krishna, see what happens? There is a desire we have, which leads to expectation. Krishna may not fulfill that, but Krishna may fulfill something that underlies it. Like if a child is very hungry and a child sees there's a mango tree over there. Child is shaking the mango tree, throwing stones at it. But no mango is falling from there. The child gets frustrated. But in the meanwhile, there's an apple tree nearby, and just by the flow of the wind, an apple falls down. So the child desired a mango, but the need was food. So the need is being fulfilled. The desire is not being fulfilled. So when I say having expectations and being attached to the expectations, what is the difference? When we have expectations, we seek something from Krishna. But when we are attached to the expectations, we reduce Krishna's love only to the fulfillment of the expectation. If this child is so caught with the mango, why is the mango not coming? The child may starve and die, but the apple is there to eat, right? Sometimes Krishna may fulfill what we need in a different way. So bhakti creates that openness. When Prabhupada went to America, he more or less expected to follow the prototype that his spiritual master had set up. What was the prototype? His spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, had developed contacts with the British government in India, and then they had given recommendations. And when his disciples had gone to the West, to UK, they had met with the elite, the lords and the ladies. And so the idea, the outreach was top down. Now you reach the leaders of society, and from there you can percolate down to the masses. Now Prabhupada wanted to do that, but he had no contacts in America. He tried to go to universities and give some talks, but people, it was only academic interest. They didn't really see any serious spiritual interest. So Prabhupada was ready to let go. And actually, in one sense, the first disciple that Prabhupada got. Normally when we want to do outreach, we want to start outreach, if we can reach somebody influential. If any kind of influence, somebody might be wealthy, somebody might be popular, somebody might be respected. If that person becomes a devotee, through them we can make many other devotees. Isn't it? So we would look for influential people. But in one sense, what Prabhupada got was the least influential people in America at that time. These were people who didn't even have a career. They didn't have a job. They didn't have a family. They had nothing. But Prabhupada said, this is the door that Krishna is opening. He took that door. And later on, by Prabhupada's mercy, by Krishna's empowerment, they became among the most influential people who spread Krishna consciousness all over. So our expectations cannot be given up in any relationship. But attachments reduce the relationship only to the fulfillment of expectations. That's what we want to avoid.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the class. So, Prabhuji, this springs from something that happened yesterday. Since the talk was on moving from life's unfairness to the mercy aspect of Krishna, some people, they come to the temple with an expectation of the calm that they are not getting from the scientific advancements that we get. So yesterday a person came whose mother had passed away 2 days ago, and he was quite disturbed. And I talked to him something, but I was reflecting back that how could I become, or how could we as part of the temple become the carriers of the calm which people are coming to seek in this temple?
A lot of people are grieving, and when they want calmness, I think different people have different natures also. So not everybody can be a carrier of calmness. Some people, I remember when I was in Pune, I was a brahmachari there, and I was cultivating one person. I was in the PR department, so I was cultivating the journalists. And I had gone to Bangalore for some programs, and this journalist, he called me. He said, I'm never going to come to your temple again. I said, what happened? He said, my mother passed away. Oh, I knew that his mother had been quite sick. He was in the hospital for some time. I'm so sorry to hear that. He said, I went to your temple and I met someone over there, and I told him that my mother passed away. He said, yes, that's the nature of the world. Today your mother passed away, tomorrow your father will pass away. Day after tomorrow your wife will pass away. After that your sibling will pass away. Everybody is going to die. Ultimately you are all alone in this world. so, so now some people think that agitating people is a sign of the purity of their preaching. So, no, Krishna says, Yasman no dvijate loko, loka no dvijate chaya. One who does not disturb others and one who is not disturbed by others. Harsha marsha bhayodvegair mukto yah sachame priyaha. Such a person is dear to me. So in many ways, we need to understand what that person's need is. And either we provide that need or have somebody else provide that need. If you understand that this is not my nature. Like some people, they are more movers than shakers. Some people they like to sit and talk and be peaceful and counsel people. If Krishna has, within the Krishna conscious community, there'll be different people who like to do different things. And they all can serve Krishna appropriately. So we need to see how that person's need can be addressed. So this happens sometimes. I was in America and I was talking with one devotee. This is an Indian boy who had born in America and is growing up. He said that, I came to the temple once and he had grown up. His parents had become devotees and he had also become a devotee. He said he had given some big exam by which he could have got into very elite college. And he had failed to clear that exam. And he came to the temple and the first thing somebody asked him, he says, why are you not wearing tilak? And I felt so utterly rejected. Now, the idea is for some people, when they come to temple, their primary value is what? It's like cultural continuity. That we come to the temple because we belong to this tradition. This is our culture. So we wear tilak, we wear traditional clothes, and we come to the temple. That's important. But at that point, that was not his need. So he said, that time I decided I'm never going to go to this temple. So then there was a Western Outreach Center where the cultural expectations are much lower. He started going there and that's where he's connected and he's practicing bhakti. So the idea is sometimes we have our understanding of what is bhakti. And we expect everyone to fit into that. So one aspect of humility is to understand that Krishna is bigger than my conception of Krishna. That what has attracted me to Krishna is not necessarily what will attract everyone to Krishna. So now for a devotee who feels very seriously, if I come to a temple, I have to come in dhoti kurta only, or I have to come in traditional dress, I have to wear tilak, although that's good. But don't impose that expectation on others. So I think we need to find out, that's why one of the principles in bhakti is sajatiya sangha, like-minded association. So are there devotees who can comfort such people? Yes. Can we do that? If we have the disposition, certainly we can. But if we don't have, we shouldn't be thinking that is the time to dismantle their illusions. No, see, first we have to build a connection, then we can remove the illusion. There is no connection, then is it an illusion to feel grief when they lost someone? Well, it's a natural human response. When Abhimanyu is lost, when Abhimanyu is killed, Arjuna is broken down. How does Krishna respond at that time? Does Krishna say, just 13 days ago I told you Bhagavad Gita and I said, Dhiras tatrana muhyati. You already forgot that? What kind of dumb person are you? Maybe I should have spoken Bhagavad Gita to someone else. No, Krishna does not do that. Krishna is very comforting and uplifting for Arjuna. It's very comforting, understanding, uplifting. So that's why we have to see what the need of the person is and try to present that aspect of bhakti which will address their need at that time.
Thank you.
Yes, quickly finish one of the questions. Yeah. You have the mic? Well, yes, please, you can ask. You can use the mic.
Hey, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. And the class was really filled with the answer I was looking for. Thank you so much. I have one question. The question is that what is the one activity that will ensure to some extent that what matters to me overlap by what matters ultimately?
What is the one activity that will ensure that? If relationships could be reduced to any one activity, life would be so much easier. Isn't it? So it is that each one of us has to do that introspection. We may say chanting Hare Krishna is the Yuga Dharma. That is true. We also hear that at the start of Kali Yuga, Shukdev Goswami did not tell Parikshit Maharaj, okay, Yuga Dharma is chanting, so just 7 days keep chanting. He spoke the Bhagavatam. And he said, Bhagavatam is Purana Arka Dhunudita. So we have many different aspects of bhakti. And we have to find out through which aspect of bhakti Krishna is attracting me now. And that is an aspect of bhakti nobody else can do for us. We can associate with devotees who are very enthusiastic about mantra chanting. There are devotees who are very associated with kirtan. There are devotees who are very enthusiastic about deity worship. There are devotees who are very enthusiastic about book distribution or very enthusiastic about Rath Yatras. So we have different devotees who are enthusiastic about different things. And when we say somebody is enthusiastic about something, what does that mean? That means what they value and what is of ultimate value. That's where it is intersecting for them. So somebody loves, when Prabhupada started Rath Yatra, it became immensely popular among the hippies and the people of the counterculture. Among everything, that became most popular. Why? Because the people in the counterculture, they were basically rule breakers. And even among the wildest things that they would do, they would not think of dancing on the roads. And Prabhupada created a festival where they're dancing on the roads, and the police were not arresting them, police were escorting them. So, Prabhupada was expert in engaging people in that zone. So, what falls in that zone of, so I talked about this zone of overlap, this will increase eventually. But even if it is a tiny overlap, so if we find that overlap, that's what will keep us steady in the practice of bhakti. And slowly we can keep pushing ourselves into the areas where we don't really feel of value, but it is of value. But we need to find that so that we can be steady and we can serve steadily in that zone. And by that connection with Krishna, gradually the overlap of it will increase. Okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, you said that it's not always we need to tolerate world's unfairness. Sometimes curse gets reversed, Dhruva and Prahlad, and sometimes it might not get reversed like Parikshit Maharaj. So I wanted to ask that how to tolerate world's unfairness, like with what consciousness in both the cases.
Yeah. If the world is unfair, how do we tolerate it? In Back to God, I think last month I wrote a whole article on tolerance. And the idea is that if we consider the Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse is 2.14. Krishna talks about tolerance. But when he talks about tolerate, what is he asking Arjuna to tolerate? Is he saying that the Kauravas, they did so many unfair things to Draupadi and to all of you? Is he saying tolerate that? No. What he's telling tolerate is that tolerate that you have to fight against Bhishma and Drona. Although they are your elders, you tolerate it. So before this, in 2.13, before Tamsi Diksha Bharata comes, Dehinosmin yatha dehe. So that is providing us intelligence. And intelligence basically means to understand what are the big things in our life and what are the small things in our life. So tolerance enables us to keep small things small so that we can keep big things big. So if we want to tolerate something, then we need to have some other thing that is bigger, that is more important for us. And for that sake, I will tolerate this. So everyone has the capacity to tolerate. See, normally we talk about tolerance in terms of, say, unpleasant situations. Somebody is rude to us, some, like you said, unfairness. But tolerance applies even to desires. Krishna later 524 talks about Shaknoti Haivaya Sodhu, tolerate desires. So everybody has the capacity to tolerate. Now, Ravana is the embodiment of lust. Could Ravana control lust? Well, yes, he could. He abducted Sita, but he did not violate Sita. Why? Because there was a curse. But what does it mean that curse was there, that he would die if he forced himself for anyone? What that means is, he had that desire, but fulfilling that desire was not a small thing for him. It was a big thing. But if fulfilling that desire means I lose my life, then preserving my life is a much bigger thing. So generally, if you want to tolerate something, we have to put something else that is bigger than what we want to tolerate. And if that whatever we are being troubled in, that is the biggest thing for us, then it's impossible to tolerate. And that's why there's sometimes when action has to be taken. The Pandavas, they tolerated the Kauravas when they tried to poison Bhima, when they tried to defraud them of the kingdom. But when after all the 13 years of the exile, when they still showed no sign of reconciling, let alone reforming, when they dishonored Krishna, the Pandavas decided enough now. So when it was that their dharma and their bhakti itself was being threatened, the Pandavas, this is the biggest thing for us, so we can't tolerate. So the idea is that, so the key to tolerating is that to tolerate X, I had to find out Y that is more valuable to me than X. And that's how I'll be able to tolerate. So if I have a boss that is disagreeable, how do I tolerate that boss? By remembering that this job is important for my career. This job is paying me something and I need the money right now. So the problem with emotions is that emotions distort our values. That in the moment, that thing feels the most important. But if we have a bigger picture, if we have a better sense of our values, yes, this is important, this is unfair, but through this, I can make some changes. Maybe I can grow from this path, and later on I might be able to make some changes. So by focusing on something, first of all, discovering what is bigger for us than what we need to tolerate, we will be able to tolerate thereafter. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. But what if we are not able to find something bigger, even after trying?
Yeah, then I think we need to make some adjustment. So that it is not that everything has to be tolerated all the time. I use this acronym called MET, MET. MET means that we have three approaches. One is we tolerate. Second is we emigrate. Third is we mitigate. So if we see, when Bhima was poisoned, the Pandavas tolerated. When the house of Lakshagraha was burnt, the Pandavas didn't just tolerate, they emigrated. They didn't go back to the Kaurava kingdom. Just walked away from there. Later on, when again they were given the overgrown half of the kingdom, what did they emigrated? Okay, we'll go there and we'll fix our own things. But when the Kauravas took away their kingdom and were not ready to give back the kingdom, were wanting to insult Krishna and continue tormenting them, then they said we have to mitigate. So life always gives us options. Now, emigration does not necessarily mean physically going away from her. Sometimes we can emotionally withdraw from a particular role, a particular responsibility. We may do externally, but emotionally we don't stay that invested. So tolerance is important, but we shouldn't make tolerance the supreme virtue. Tolerance is for a higher purpose. Say we say tarorapi sahishnuna. But what is the purpose of that? Kirtaniya sadahari. So if you come to the temple for chanting and you sit next to somebody who is chanting so loudly that you can't hear your chanting at all. You only hear their chanting. Now should you tolerate that? Not tolerating doesn't mean you slap the person. No, tolerance is not the only thing over there. Mitigating, you can tell them gently, please, can you chant a little softly? Everybody's chanting over here. If they're too senior or we don't feel comfortable telling them anything like that, then emigrate means we walk away from there. So there are ways in which we can, if something goes beyond our tolerance limit, that's okay. That's not a moral flaw. Sometimes it may just be a physical or a psychological limitation. And if that happens, then we have to find out where we can continue our seva, our dharma. We find that place and move on from there. Okay? Last question. Sorry, can you turn on the mic?
The appreciation for the session today. I could see a typical Bhagavatam class if we go back thousands of years, whatever, or where Sukadeva Goswami started it, or what it is done typically as. But you have, the way you have explained it, utilizing the best technologies and also the techniques of communication, which is the field I am interested into, is incredible. And, but it's the same essence which comes through, and I'm sure everybody would agree here, in such a beautiful way and a much more easily understandable way, which comes in your articles also so much, but here in this, in this format also, especially in a Bhagavatam class, I didn't see like that. So helps us absorb it so much better. And if anybody thought that you only prepared what was there to be said in the session, that myth will be dispelled by the question and answer session, where everything just came spontaneously and you would still show the same kind of skills, I would say, but also the depth of the, the purity which is required to also do it appropriately. So thank you so much, and it's a great inspiration, I think, for me and for many, I'm sure, in the world.
very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaura Premanande.